Welcome everyone. My name is Sean, and today we got to talk about this absolutely tragic story out of the city of Philadelphia, where somebody who came to commit retail theft, a common thing that we see across this country, was actually stopped by a security guard. However, due to the fact that Philadelphia is so soft on crime, he was allowed to leave the store, and 15 minutes later, this guy comes back and stabs a security guard to death. He sought out revenge, and if we had a sensible criminal justice policy, if we had a sensible district attorney rather than the Soros-backed Larry Krasner, this security guard would have been alive. This then unarmed suspect would have been arrested on the spot, and the security guard would be home with his family right now. But instead, we have 2 guards stabbed, 1 dead, and this is the result of repeatedly ignoring theft, pretending all criminals are Aladdin, and it's absolutely horrific. Now, we're going to get into this, we're going to talk about it, but before we do, I want to say thank you to everybody who signed up over on actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay?
And thank you to the podcast listeners, Spotify, Apple, and Google's podcasting platform. Across this country, we have seen a surge in retail theft. We've seen looting become commonplace, flash mob robberies all across the country, but concentrated in major left-wing cities. And with that surge, with this undeniable data, comes the crime deniers, comes the people who say it's not happening, or it's no big deal, or oh my god, the people stealing this stuff, they're just Aladdins, they're completely harmless, they got hearts of gold. We should feel bad for these sad sacks because they're down on their luck, and if it wasn't for our white supremacist capitalist system, they would be perfectly fine. And even District Attorney Larry Krasner has weighed in this regard. He once referred to looters, violent people who are destroying stores in order to obtain instant gratification through the theft of property, as fundamentally law-abiding people, i.e. they're victimized by the system. And when you have that attitude from the top down, when you have that attitude culturally, when somebody actually does step up, when somebody actually does stop one of these criminals, you end up with results like we saw out of Philadelphia.
Philadelphia police say 2 unarmed security guards were stabbed and slashed by a man who was trying to steal hats from the retail store on 13th and Market around 10:45 Monday morning.
So first and foremost, this happened on a Monday at 10:45 in the morning in one of the busiest shopping districts in Philadelphia Center City, a flagship store that is the Macy store. And as you heard from the local news reports, these 2 security guards were unarmed. They noticed somebody who came into the store to steal hats. They spot this person, they confront this person, again, unarmed security guards, and they managed to get the merchandise back from the suspect, but they're forced to let the suspect go because these security guards don't have any arrest power, and they know for a fact, based on corporate policy and based on District Attorney Larry Krasner, that calling the police will lead to no consequences for this individual.
The security here stops that individual. There's some type of confrontation. The security here backs off, gets the merchandise back, allows the mail to go on.
But 15 minutes later, he came back to Macy's, this time armed with a knife, and attacked the security guard.
However, the thing is about Philadelphia and across this nation, specifically in liberal cities, is that these criminals feel entitled to steal. They have a divine right to steal. This was told to them, it was bequeathed upon them by the George Floyd riots and all those who supported those riots. So the suspect returned 15 minutes later, this time armed, and went for the kill of these 2 security guards, because how dare you try to enforce the law? How dare you try to actually protect the store? How dare you try to defend society from these criminal thieves? Because as we all know, the thieves are innocent angel Aladdins, according to District Attorney Larry Krasner. They're fundamentally law-abiding people.
There's a scuffle with the second security guard trying to save the first guard that stabbed, and that security guard sustains several stab wounds as well, or slash wounds as well.
So the local news is good as a starting point, as a jumping off point for what went down in this particular story. However, it doesn't really tell the full tale. In fact, we got to go to this New York Post article so that you guys can know what actually happened in this store, because it's being underplayed by the local news affiliate. So the suspect, by the way, we are waiting on his criminal history. I'm certain it's going to be lengthy and ridiculous. Enters the store and immediately comes to attack the security guard. In fact, he runs at the guard with the knife already out and begins to stab him. Then there's a scuffle, which is the part of the press conference that the local news played, where the second security guard is trying to save the first guard's life, and he sustained several stab and slash wounds trying to defend this person. Both guards were rushed to Jefferson Hospital. The 30-year-old guard who was stabbed in the neck was pronounced dead there. The 23-year-old guard who was stabbed in the face and the arm was recovering as of Monday night. Now, the suspect in this particular instance that you might believe is Aladdin, you might think is an innocent angel who is just trying to steal hats in order to feed his starving family, after exacting his revenge on these two security guards, fled the scene but was arrested immediately. As of right now, the Philadelphia Police and District Attorney Krasner are not releasing the name of the suspect. Gee, I wonder why, when it turns out that he's gonna have a rap sheet a mile long, that Krasner put him in 25 diversion programs. I wonder why this person's name isn't being put out into the public until much, much later, but hopefully he will be charged with murder and attempted murder and will never have to deal with this person in society ever again. But the thing is, this is what happens when you allow retail theft to go completely unchecked. This is what happens when you make it difficult for security guards to protect themselves. You should be armed in Philadelphia if you're guarding one of these retail stores, especially when there's an epidemic of looting, because contrary to Larry Krasner's fundamental belief that these looters and rioters are fundamentally law-abiding citizens, that is not actually the case. This is who these people are, and when you allow these thieves to continuously steal, feel emboldened, feel entitled to loot from your major thoroughfares, from your major stores, when they actually get challenged, when they actually get deflected, they then lash out, strike back, come back in this particular instance for revenge, and yes, this is something that we've seen over and over again in this country. The Moe's story out of California, Oakland, I believe, Home Depot, that was a story of somebody returning after being stopped from stealing a power drill and shooting the security guard in that particular instance. The fact of the matter is, it used to be that when you commit a retail theft and you're stopped by a security guard, they hold you until law enforcement gets there, you are then arrested, and then you're charged with the crime, and if you're convicted, you actually serve time for that crime. However, in this particular instance, you have a person who's looting the store, coming in to steal hats, they end up having to let this person go, and he returns 15 minutes later and takes a 30-year-old man away from his family, because that is the justifiable outcome according to District Attorney Larry Krasner. This is what Soft on Crime has brought us, an instance where security guards doing their job are in mortal danger because the thieves have more rights than the security guard.
A 30-year-old security guard was stabbed in the neck and died 20 minutes later. The other, a 23-year-old, was transported to Jefferson Hospital and is now in stable condition.
Now, the New York Post has this dumb line in this article that says it's unclear what sparked the alleged stabber to attack the guards after he initially left the store, which is an absurd statement to have in this article because I already told you what sparked this motivation. It was revenge. The thieves' God-given right, his natural-born super right granted to him by George Soros District Attorney Larry Krasner was violated when they stopped him from trying to steal from the Macy's, you know, the 57th Amendment to the Constitution, so he exercised his 58th Amendment, which was to stab anybody who gets in his way of theft because he's just trying to feed his starving kids those hats from Macy's that he was stealing this holiday season. That's what motivated this crime. It should not be surprising to anyone that this happened. I've told you this was going to happen for years and years, shown you many examples, and despite the fact that Larry Krasner swears by the law-abiding nature of this criminal, of this thug, I told you that that was nonsense. The stabbing comes as the city of brotherly love struggles with sustained crime, including rampant shoplifting. Macy's, that particular one in the city center, has among the highest rates of retail theft in the entire area. This is despite the fact, or honestly, maybe because of the fact, that this Macy's is located right across the street from City Hall, and according to the New York Post, they have 250 plus reported instances of retail theft at that particular Macy's just this year, and again, those are just the reported thefts, many a times because there's no consequences for this kind of looting in the city of Philadelphia, the store doesn't even bother to report it to the police, yet it was left completely unprotected. The security guards were unarmed, and when they actually did their job, when they actually prevented a theft, it eventually ended up costing them their lives because there are no consequences for these criminals. There's no opportunity to get them off the streets before they escalate their crimes, and that's exactly what happened here.
The suspect ran to a nearby train station but was captured by SEPTA police at the Somerset station in Kensington.
Wearing dark color pants, blue shiny coat. He had one sneaker on, one white sneaker.
The action cam was there as officers took a man matching his description into custody.
Now look, I'm going to be extraordinarily careful in what I say next, because even though this is probably the suspect, as of right now, that has not been confirmed by law enforcement. This, according to the local news, is somebody who matches the exact same clothing description as the person who perpetrated the stabbing, who was arrested in a nearby location shortly after that, and they went there and they filmed it, but we don't have 100% confirmation that this person right here is in fact the person that the police arrested for this. He could have committed a completely separate crime and just coincidentally been in the same area wearing the same clothes. That being said, do you think when we find out this guy's name and his criminal history that we're gonna find out that he's in med school and he's about to become a doctor, he's looking at different options for his residency, or do you think that we're gonna find a lengthy criminal history, a series of instances, some of them that were violent, that were being ignored by people like District Attorney Larry Krasner, that ultimately ended up leading him to this point? I think if any paperwork associated with him is found, it's not going to be a medical degree, it's going to be a rap sheet, and that is the exact problem. We're told over and over again by the left wing that we shouldn't take retail theft seriously, that it's no big deal, it's not a problem, even as it drives areas into poverty. When it closes down stores, people lose jobs, people have to commute further in order to get the basic necessities. But the fact of the matter is, these people are also dangerous and violent criminals. If somebody is willing to violate the laws and norms in one direction, do you think that is just limited and contained to that category? No, of course not. Everything shows us that these criminals escalate in their behavior. In Washington, D.C., we talked about this a bunch of times. When somebody is ultimately ended up arrested for a homicide charge, they had 11 previous arrests on average, 11 chances to get them off the streets before they took another person's life that were passed up upon in that particular area. Well, guess what? Birds of a feather flock together, and just like they have a crappy district attorney in DC, a crappy mayor over there, Philadelphia is the same. So I would be unsurprised if we found out that there's also a similar number of charges with this suspect or with murderers overall in that city. Hey guys, Editing Sean here, and just before I was ready to put out the final version of this video uploaded onto the internet.com for early access for my members, we discover that the name of this suspect is in fact Tyrone Tunnell, and unsurprisingly, he has a extensive criminal history that dates back all the way to 2013, so 10 years of not just charges, but convictions, and those convictions range from retail theft to robbery to drug offenses. So you had an entire history of this person doing this exact same thing, no consequences for it, and guess what? He was out until the point where he killed someone. And by the way, the victim in this instance has been identified as 27-year-old Eric Harrison, and this man lost his life because Philadelphia couldn't put away somebody who was arrested more than a dozen times for specifically retail theft, robbery, and other drug offenses. But you know what? I will leave this up to you guys out there in the audience to render your judgments. Is this guy an innocent Angel Aladdin, or is he a criminal that deserves to be sent up the creek for a long time? I think we all know the answer to that, but let me know down in the comments below. Now, if you like this video, show them by leaving a like. Subscribe for more content, follow me on all my social medias, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about this crazy story out of Philadelphia. Till next time.